So this is a podcast or this is a video response to the podcast we listened to last night and sort of a little bit of the class discussion today. After listening to the podcast, I had a lot of different reactions. Um, and sort of my main reaction was, how do we reform education if all the layers that are involved in reforming education, all the people, different stages and whatnot, if all those people are coming at education reform with different lenses, how do we ever really achieve anything? And I think the answer would be to figure out one specific goal that we want to come out of education reform and how that one goal can not only impact education positively, but how it can impact the rest of our society positively. And I think, for me, looking at society and everything that's happened in the past few years in terms of violence, the economy, the workforce, how poverty's been dealt with, all the different levels of inequity. I think that the biggest goal that should be for education reform um, would be to teach people how to interact with different cultures and different types of people. So, kind of catering to this idea of teaching culturally diverse classrooms. I think that that would be an extremely, extremely positive thing. Um, I think that if we began teaching in culturally and linguistically diverse classrooms and creating culturally responsive pedagogies, that automatically students will begin to learn how to interact with other races, other cultures, people who don't speak the same language as them, speak the same first language as them, and it'll eventually just become a thing. It'll eventually just become normal. It won't be a big to do. And I think that this needs to be tackled from the bottom up approach. Because as we saw in the podcast, there are a lot of parents who still hold these old values, and it's because they weren't really educated based on this other type of system. They weren't taught educated in culturally diverse classrooms. So why can you blame them for having those opinions? They're not appropriate opinions, but they don't know any different. So we need to start with the students that we have now in schools, so that way, as time progresses, they become the ones who are leading the United States and they understand how to interact with different cultures, and this whole issue of race and nonsense that people spew at other people won't be an issue anymore. That said, that creates a fine line of forcing opinions on people and sort of standardizing too much the curriculum. So I don't know. It's a very hard answer, but I think if that were to be implemented, the idea of teaching culturally responsive classrooms, um, I think that the United States could really benefit from it. I think that it would start with one classroom, and if that classroom had success, it would trickle into the other classrooms in the school. And then maybe there'd be an opportunity for parents to be educated on the practices that are being used and explanations as to why these practices are being used. And then if the whole school is on the same page, then maybe other schools in the district will start to pick up on those practices. They'll gain support from the superintendent and board of educators or directors, and then that whole district is on the same page and they're producing these students who understand how to interact with other cultures and other types of people. And then maybe eventually, if that school has bunch of success in terms of testing, because that's what reform or policymakers want to see, is success in testing. So if that's something that they can achieve, then why would they be criticized for that being a bad form of teaching instruction to use? So if they are giving those testing results, then potentially it trickles into other districts in the state, and it just continues to spread. So I would kind of face this from the bottom up approach, starting with one school. Like I said, there's a fine line between forcing opinions on people and standardizing things too much, but I think that if it was approached correctly, it's more of just educating people on the fact that we live in a very diverse world, and that's not going to change. And it's a lot more things will be succeeded if we learn how to interact with all different types of people versus just sitting and fighting against them. So that is my thought. Thank you.